Welcome back to another batch of files to edit here. And this one might actually be the final batch. So let's come in and knock these out real quick like we've done in the other ones. That bruise. And I'm going to remove some of this, all this stuff in the sand here. Not all of it. I'll probably keep this around here, but I just want to remove some of it so it's not quite as distracting to the overall shot. I know I've used that a lot, distracting. But yeah, in my mind, especially for this shoot, it's supposed to be super minimal. The background, seeing all these footprints and stuff like that, which are inevitable. I mean, you're going to get them when you walk in sand, and in this case, a lot of salt in this area here as well. But you're going to get that, so that's normal. But it defeats, or it goes against some of that minimalist look. So just getting rid of some of that. There we go. See, that's a lot better. Not nearly as distracting. You still have some there, but I think we're good. Do I need to fix that little bit on her face there? There we go. On to the next one. Looks like a similar type concept here. Let's fix the bruise on her leg. Oh, that was on the other side, the little mascara bit there. Or eyelash or whatever it was. And just going to clean some of this up. So one thing, when you're using the heel brush, you notice I'm doing a lot of small strokes. That's one reason why the Cintiq is nice for this. We could really just do one big one, but when it does that, it's going to use that whole area at once instead of generating little bits and pieces. So think of it kind of like, I've used this analogy before, but when you're painting, if you're painting with a lot of smaller strokes, you're going to get a different look than if you're painting with a lot of larger strokes. And in this case, the stroke that we're doing with the healing brush, each one, it's calculating the colors around each thing for the duration of it. So there isn't, some math behind how this is processing out. And so in my experience, what I've found, I like the results a lot better when I'm using the healing brush, when I'm doing a lot of smaller strokes, because it's calculating each one of those individually instead of all together. And so I like those results better. So that's why I'm doing a lot of smaller strokes. And let's come in here just to cover some of this up a little bit. I'm using the stamp tool now because I thought it looked a little too generated over here. So we'll pull some of that back over from this side. There we go. Yeah, so not nearly as distracting, right? Same, I don't see the bruise there. Maybe that little bit of mascara that was on her nose. We could remove this right there. And then this little bit right here. And start a new layer, and then we'll come in and start to clean a lot of this up too. So similar to what we did before. So these are taking a little bit longer, even though this is the last batch. Let me try maybe sampling from up here might work a little bit better. So I'm finding a source point, then sampling instead of doing the spot tool. Yeah, I like this result a little bit better. I'm still going to do a little bit more cleanup with my stamp tool. Do a little bit more to get rid of some of these areas that look a little generated, which is normal. You're going to get that sometimes when you're using the healing tool. And so I'm going to actually stamp in some of the original stuff that's not generated, the actual photo in there, and then bring it down a little bit. There we go. Nice. The next shot is this one here. And can you see the bruise? Nope. Maybe a little bit right there. Is that it? Let's get it right here. And then it's hard to see, but a little bit right there on her nose. I think that was keep calling it mascara. I don't know if it's mascara and eyelash, whatever it is. Just a little bit. So let's see here. Maybe we could give some options. We have quite a few that have these. Let's do maybe one more cleanup, and then we can have some that have all of them in there to give options. So maybe she'll like some of those. Also, another part of it too that I'm thinking out loud, is the storytelling side of this too, is if they are shown side by side, well, the whole she is kind of dancing around and stuff. And so if some of them have more footprints than others, then that tells the story of over time, there's been more footprints that have been added, right? Which is another reason why I wanted to clean some of them up to begin with, to show that, it started with not as much, and then as time goes, there's more there. Which is true, of course. As we're editing, that, a lot of it is because we took a lot of other shots, and so those footprints are from other shots. But for the story of these shots and this angle, this particular set here, we're pretending like some of those other shots didn't happen. And so that's why I'm telling the story from the start of this set, where she's dancing around like this in front of the sunset, not necessarily the shots we took earlier in the day when there was no sunset. That would be a different sort of set. There we go. We'll even bring this down a little bit. So it's not quite as distracting. We're bringing a little bit, some of that back. And then for some of these other ones, we can leave them in to leave that option. Let's go ahead and shift here to our, get rid of the bruise. Go. And then we can clean up some of this background stuff if we want to, but as I said, I'm going to leave. I am going to leave a lot of those in. Maybe some of these in the back, further back. Like she didn't go that far. The idea being, they're more in front, but like that. Leave that in. Save. Move on to the next one. So a lot of those are, as you're editing shots, especially if you're doing a set, there's a bunch of these together, and I don't know how they're going to be used, but especially these days on social media, a lot of times, people will put them together into a reel or into a carousel on Instagram or something where you can see a lot of shots side by side, not A/B, on top of each other necessarily, but although I guess you could get that in a reel sometimes. But you do see a lot of them side by side. Clean this up in this little foreground area here leave the footprints more where she is. So in my mind, I try to, not just tell a story with a single image, but also it's not straight video, but video is just a bunch of still images together with sound. We don't have the sound and pictures, but we do have a set of images that can kind of tell a story when put together. And with social media these days, a lot of times they are put together. So thinking about that is something that I do a lot of times while I'm editing. What's the story that I can tell here in the editing phase, right? So we've already told the story in the photo phase, taking the pictures, and then the editing phase. What's the story that we can tell to help really drive that further on, right? Because in the moment and the sets, it's not like I knew, where all the footprints were going to be, what was exactly going to happen. So we can play with that after the fact. Okay, this one's saving. Let me see this. Yeah, so you see here on the heel, so we've already done some healing. So we're starting to hit the shots that we've already edited. Yeah, so that should be the end of the batch. Let me just double check here in our folder. Yep. Yeah, so we've hit the end of the shots we need to edit. So the next step would be to let these finish saving off. So we have these documents that are saving. Once these are done, I'll go ahead and end the video here while these save, and then I will see you in the next video where we're going to bring this back into Capture One and start actually cropping these out to export the final shots. See you then.